Once upon a time, there was a priest who was reading the Bible, and he came across the very same passage we heard in our second reading today. That with the Lord, one day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like one day. And in his amazement, he cried out, "Lord, if this is true, what must 1,000,000 years be like for you?" And God said to him, "My son, to me 1,000,000 years are like just 1 minute." "Wow," said the priest. "Wow, and Lord, then what must $1,000,000 be like to you?" And God said to him, "Like just 1 penny." And the priest continued, "Well, Lord, I was kind of hoping, could I have 1 penny?" And God said to him, "Of course, my son, just give me 1 minute." But seriously, what if I told you that in 3 weeks, you are going to win the lottery? If that was true, wouldn't your life already begin to change? I'm sure you'd be planning things, setting things up, and you hadn't even won yet. But just knowing that it was going to happen is already beginning to change your life. The season of Advent is like that. Advent is a season of expectation and of hope. An expectation and a hope that already begins to change us. Like the people in today's gospel who went to hear the preaching of St. John the Baptist. His mere announcing that the Messiah was coming had already begun to change their lives. And during a normal Advent, just the knowledge that Christmas is around the corner changes our lives. We plan, we shop, we prepare, and Christmas hasn't even come yet. But knowing that it's on its way is already beginning to change us. And what's true of the first coming of Christ, which we celebrate at Christmas, is also true of the second coming, which we look forward to at the end of time. And our second reading today is all about the second coming. But it's very easy to misunderstand that, to focus only on the really dramatic things that the Apostle Peter was saying, like the heavens will pass with a loud noise, and the elements will be dissolved with fire. But St. Peter also says in the letter 2 other things. First, that the earth and everything that is done on it will be disclosed. And second, that according to his promise, we wait for new heavens and a new earth, where righteousness will be at home. And so St. Peter is telling us very clearly 3 things about the second coming. First, that the world as we know it will come to an end in a rather dramatic fashion. Second, that what we do in this life matters. It will not simply be forgotten or erased. And third, that in the end, God will create new heavens and a new earth where righteousness is at home. And I think a few things will follow from this. First, our attitude towards the things of this world. The things of this world are good. God made them, but they're not God. And sometimes we can become so fixed on or attached to something or some event or even some person that we consciously or unconsciously place all our hopes on them. But St. Peter tells us in our second reading today that all created things will come to an end in a rather dramatic fashion. And while at first that might sound like a bit of a downer, the truth is it's actually very freeing. Because it frees us from the anxiety and the sometimes wildly unrealistic expectations that we put on things, events, and people when we place all of our hope in them. And knowing that they will come to an end, we can place our hope in God, from whom these things, these events, these people in our lives are a gift. And we are then free to enjoy and to cherish them for the time that we have with them. And when the time comes for us to be parted from these gifts from God to us in our life, we also have the knowledge and the hope that we will see them again when God creates the new heavens and the new earth. And knowing that this will come to pass changes the way, the attitude that we have towards the things of this world. Second, the good work that we do has eternal significance. Sometimes people criticize Christian hope as somehow taking away from the betterment of this world. Because if you believe that this world is going to come to an end, why waste your effort in making it better? But what if no effort is ever wasted? What if, as St. Peter says in the second reading, that the earth and everything that is done on it will be disclosed? The smallest efforts, any contribution we have made to lifting up those valleys of injustice and suffering in the world, and leveling those mountains of pride and corruption, all these things will be made known. And not only will they be made known and not forgotten, God will also bring them to completion. And so everything that we do has an eternal significance. And finally, that God will create a new heavens and a new earth where righteousness will be at home. Do we not experience the limitations of our good efforts, our personal resolutions, or we see social or political movements which begin with such noble aspirations but sometimes run out of steam, or are spoiled over the passage of time or by human frailty? Do not all of our efforts have a kind of incompleteness or temporariness to them? And so we could be tempted to just throw up our arms and say, why bother? It's impossible. But knowing that God will create a new heavens and a new earth where righteousness will finally be at home should instead fill us with hope that every good thing we set out to do, God will bring to completion on that last day. And when that day comes, it will be better than winning the lottery. I looked it up yesterday. Apparently the largest jackpot is Lotto Max, 22 million. And even if we won $22 million, we still couldn't make things last forever. We still couldn't make this world into a place where righteousness is at home. But God can, and God will. And knowing this, how would it change the way we live our lives? As St. Peter says, since all these things are to be dissolved in this way, what sort of people ought we to be, living lives of holiness and godliness?